I was lecturing one day, in a course on Shakespeare on Othello, and the question was, why does Iago the villain do what he does? Why this insane case against Desdemona? What's his motivation? And I had 50 minutes to lecture, and I had 5 points to make, so I had allocated exactly 10 minutes to each point. And the first 10 minutes was Iago does what he does for the reasons he gives. He's frustrated he hasn't been promoted to the position of lieutenant, and he thinks that Othello has had relations with his middle-aged wife Emilia. And since Iago says early in the play, I am not what I am, anything Iago says we might want to discount. In other words, I was spending the first 10 minutes on the most obvious motives for Iago, and then wanted to get on to number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. But I was just about finishing up on the first 10, and this kid gets up from the back of the lecture. He said, "Just a second, Sid." He comes down, joins me behind the lectern. He says, "I want to spend some more time on this first one that you seem to be willing to dismiss. Iago does what he does for the reasons that he gives." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, he thinks that Othello has had relations with Emilia." I said, "Why would Othello want Emilia, middle age, when he has a brand new bride?" And the kid starts arguing with me. And as he's arguing, I get fascinated by his mind. And I find myself starting to support her. We're like musicians playing a duet. And we're both pulling evidence from the play. And now we're saying, and when Iago says to Othello, "Beware of jealousy," Iago is really talking about himself. And the kid says, "Yes, Iago's lonely. It's not that his wife has had relations with Othello. Iago thinks." In other words, Iago is a victim of the same suspicion that he's trying to plant in Othello. And Iago needs a buddy. So now the 50 minutes are up. I don't get to numbers 4, 2 to 5. And 2 wonderful things happened from that. Well, 3. One was, that kid, Duan, was thrilled that someone would sort of jam with him on stage about this, 2, boy, when I think of Othello nowadays, I think in terms of that conversation we had. He literally shaped my thinking. The third one was great. Duan was an African-American actor, and I was about to cast for Hamlet, so I cast him as Hamlet. And he said, "Why do you cast me as Hamlet, Sid?" I said, "Well, I just like the idea of a black guy playing Hamlet who's wearing black, the funereal outfit. Everyone else is white." He said, "Is that the ultimate reason?" I said, "No, it isn't the ultimate reason, Duan. The ultimate reason is you're a very good actor, and you have a fantastic mind. I know. You're the only person who's ever interrupted me in the middle of a lecture and changed it." I mean, I love moments like that. I just find everything fascinating. And that's a hell of a way to answer a good question. Part of me, and this is a little fakey, I love to instill life with maybe more than it's really there. I like to enhance it. And sometimes I'm just very conscious that I'm doing it. Number 1. You get 2 excused absences, right? And all that you have to do is just send me an email. shakes@ufl.edu. Shakes as in Shakespeare, get it? Shakes. All my colleagues, they put their last name. It never occurred to me, Shakes@ufl. Just send me an email. I will send it to our stage manager. And it's as simple as that. If you have any unexcused absences, good. And you're getting like an A-, it goes down to a B-. That's where the theater, work in the theater, work with language, what you would call the frame, work with language enhances something, makes it finer than it is. And to some degree, it's false, it's fake, to the degree to which I'm conscious of it. But there's a degree to which I'm not conscious of it. I find myself trying everything I can to make this profession of mine, the theater, language, words, as useful as possible. As useful as possible. And that means it's political in the largest sense of that word. If I thought for a second the theater was just entertainment, something you do at the end of a busy day, oh, I'd be back installing telephones in South Philadelphia. I did a show that I've often done a lot called An Evening with Shakespeare, where we have high points of his plays. And I had a bunch of graduate students as my actors. And one of the graduate students was blind. She'd been blind from birth. She had a wonderful name, Francesca Marinara.
Oh.
Francesca Marinara.
So
beautiful.
Italian.
Yeah, very Italian. We used to kid her endlessly about that. And I asked her to play Cleopatra in that great speech. Remember at the end of Antony and Cleopatra, Antony's dead at her feet. Caesar's made her an offer. If she comes to Rome as his mistress, he won't kill her. He'll set her up in a nice mansion for the rest of her life. So she's now caught between her life here and the life in Rome. And of course, the actor for Cleopatra in Shakespeare's day was a young boy, you know, not made to look particularly feminine, just a dress hanging from her. And the clown has just brought in a basket of asps, those poisonous snakes, from them, and she's thinking about taking her life. And she decides not to go to Rome, because she says after a while the people will tire of me and they'll start making plays about me and comedies. And she says some squeaking Cleopatra will buoy my greatness. Well, of course it's a boy playing Cleopatra with his voice hasn't changed. So she takes it's my favorite moment. She takes the first asp. Probably in Shakespeare's day it was just a rope, a little rope. She takes the first asp and she puts it to her left breast. And you speak about language framing or something. She says, "It is as a lover's pinch, which hurts and is desired." And then she turns to the second asp. And she picks it up. "Nay, Anthony, I will have thee too, you know." My God, she's translated the two instruments of death, these poisonous asps, into a baby and her husband. And she stands there like this, and I remember Francesca did this. And she looks out at the audience. Of course, in Francesca's instance, she's just looking straight ahead, but not seeing the audience. She's holding the two asps, baby and husband. It's a nuclear family. And her final line before she dies is, I'll just do it straight without any emphasis, "Why should I stay?" And I asked Francesca, "What does that mean to you?" And she said, "Sid, I'm in some blissful period. I have everything I could want. My child, my husband. And my question is, in effect, I have everything I want in life. Why do I need to be here any longer?" It was so great. She just looked, she said, "Why should I stay?" Francesca's interpretation of that moment, you know, it came entirely from her. Wow, it affects my thinking about that. Forever and ever and ever. And there's this wonderful girl. She never participated in class, but every once in a while she'd just get up from her seat, stand very firm, and she did it whenever I was just getting too fond of myself, too much enraptured with my own words, of which you've had a perfect example this afternoon, or which I was very much the graduate student, leading these tiny little undergraduates. Whenever I got too vain or proud, she'd get up, hands on hips, and look at me, and she'd say, go on," and she'd sit down. Yeah, you never knew when that was coming. But it always came at just the right moment. She always sort of jerked me back to reality, you know. I never know what happened to her, but I always imagine when I'm teaching, I always imagine that there's her ghost there, and boy, when I forget myself, when I make myself more important than what's happening in the class, when I find myself trying to beat down this student's opinion who disagrees with me, when I find myself getting stupidly frustrated with a student because she isn't responding to the intricacies of the play whenever that happens, and that happens sometimes, I always imagine she's that girl, her ghost gets something. Go on, she'd say. keeps me honest.